Traffic problems. Just about all cities, regardless of size, have them. The growth of motor vehicle travel in rural and urban areas has created problems which can be very complex. Problems include congestion, accidents, social and environmental impacts. Ugliness, air pollution, strain, discomfort, noise, and nuisance are all part of the increasingly social nature of transportation problems. Better traffic facilities can improve traffic flow, minimize many of these impacts, and improve the viability of the business district. Traffic engineering involves the planning and design of roadway systems and the safe and efficient control of vehicle traffic. Simple engineering techniques can improve traffic flow and increase roadway capacity and safety. The most effective and often used techniques are the regulation and control of traffic and minor modifications of existing roadways. This presentation focuses on the regulation and control of traffic in small communities through the use of traffic signs and markings. Traffic control devices such as signs and markings are the primary means of regulating, warning, or guiding traffic on all streets and highways. The need for well-designed, properly installed, and adequately maintained devices grows in proportion to the density of traffic, speed of operation, and complexity of maneuvering areas of highways and at intersections. To be effective, the installation of each traffic control device should fulfill a need, command attention, convey a clear, simple meaning, command respect of road users, give adequate time for proper response. Many citizens seem unsure of the ground rules for installation of signs and signals on streets and highways. Citizens sometimes feel that public officials are indifferent to their requests for traffic control devices. We hope that some background explanation will resolve any misunderstandings regarding the interests of traffic engineers who have a very human concern and professional pride in providing safe and efficient transportation. The basic document dealing with the problems of traffic control device installation is a book bearing the imposing title, Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices for Streets and Highways, published by the Federal Highway Administration. This book, which is usually referred to as the Manual or the MUTCD, and which has been in use for over 30 years, contains practical lessons learned by traffic engineers throughout the country over a good number of years. In a mobile economy such as ours, where people in ever-increasing numbers travel countrywide, it is imperative that a motorist from one state encounter familiar traffic controls as he or she travels across state lines. That most motorists don't realize there is such a thing as uniformity is the best tribute to the fact that uniformity exists. In the same vein, but in a more subtle fashion, has come the agreement that traffic control should be installed for nationally accepted standard reasons. Why? Over a period of years, it was found that some traffic control devices worked very well. They separated the streams of traffic the way they were supposed to. They caused no needless delays, and they prevented, or at least helped prevent, accidents. Other traffic control devices, however, did not do as well. There were confusion, backups, congestion, and accidents. Professionals working in this field began to see certain correlations, began to see why this device worked, but that one didn't. From these pooled findings came a set of warrants, a list of the circumstances under which traffic control devices can be expected to function properly. These warrants, codified, discussed, analyzed, criticized, revised, and finally set forth in great detail, help the practicing traffic engineer to decide when a control device should be installed. Such decisions are not easy to make and are very seldom even clear-cut. What the individual citizen may not realize is that he or she may be only one of many clamoring for a sign or signal at their particular intersection. The individual is almost certainly not able to foresee the chaos that would ensue should each request be granted. Only a professional, trained to look at the complete picture and using uniform standards, can make unemotional, detached decisions. It is not the purpose of this presentation to enumerate or discuss warrants in detail. since it would be to the advantage of the motoring public in general and to the advantage of the traffic engineering profession in particular for the manual to have as widespread distribution as possible. Interested viewers are urged to obtain copies for their own use. Local officials certainly should be familiar with its provisions. Copies may be obtained from the Superintendent of Documents, U.S. Government Printing Office, Washington, D.C., 20402, for $30 a copy. As we have just discussed, proper installation of signs and markings comprises one of the most important elements of a good traffic program. Let's look briefly at the principal types of signs and where each might be used. There are three basic types of traffic signs: regulatory, warning, and guide. Details on all signs should be checked in the MUTCD. Regulatory signs inform motorists of traffic laws or regulations. There are four principal groups of regulatory signs: the right-of-way series, which includes stop and yield signs; the speed series; the movement series, which includes turning and one-way signs; and the parking series. These signs are of constant concern since they directly affect the road user and are generally enforced. Most public complaints relate to these four groups of signs. Therefore, the local traffic engineer or official is very much involved with their design and application. In most cases, some form of enabling legislation authorizing regulatory signs is needed, since the enforcement and judicial actions can result from their use. With few exceptions, regulatory signs are rectangular in shape with black letters on a white background. One exception is the stop sign, which is octagonal in shape with white letters on a red background. This sign portrays the three principal elements of any sign: message, color, and shape. In addition, all regulatory signs should be reflectorized. Warning signs are used where it is necessary to give advance notice to traffic of existing or potentially hazardous conditions. Warning signs require caution on the part of the motorist and may call for reduction of speed or a maneuver in the interest of safety. Warning signs are generally diamond-shaped with black letters and border on a yellow background. The shape and color are particularly strong and convey a clear message of warning to the road user. As with regulatory signs, it is important that appropriate materials be used in the fabrication of warning signs and that they be reflectorized. Use of warning signs must be kept to a minimum, since their unnecessary use tends to breed disrespect for all signs. Guide signs are intended to guide motorists along streets and highways, inform them of intersecting routes, or direct them to proper destinations. The principle underlying effective guide signing is that clear, understandable directional messages at points along the traveled way will allow a driver unfamiliar with the area to make a change of route smoothly with a minimum of disruption to himself and to other traffic. There should be a positive effect on the level of safety for a section of roadway, since erratic maneuvers should be less as signing becomes clearer and simpler to the motorist. A high level of guidance is important to minimize motorist confusion. For example, street name signs form an important part of the system of guide signs in an urban area. Another method for communicating with drivers is through the use of pavement markings. Roadway markings are used to supplement the regulations and warnings of other devices such as signs and signals. This function is particularly important in the case of the stop sign or the mandatory turn lane sign. In these cases, supplemental pavement markings help to assure that the message is conveyed. Pavement markings are also used for messages that cannot be effectively communicated in any other way. The principal function served in this manner is the designation of the traffic lanes with longitudinal painted lines of different widths and colors. Adverse weather conditions and heavy traffic wear usually obliterate pavement markings to the point where they are not legible. In some cases, raised markers are used instead of or to supplement painted stripes. Raised markers have the advantages of being visible when the pavement is wet and of providing a tactile response to the driver when he or she encroaches on the lane stripes. An adequate system of maintenance of traffic control devices is just as important as adhering to proper warrants and good installation practices. A maintenance system may include a sign inventory, a citizen complaint system, a method for rating maintenance priorities, and a routine inspection program. To ensure adequate maintenance, a suitable schedule for inspection, cleaning, and replacement of signs should be established. Employees of the street department, police, and other governmental employees whose duties require that they travel on the streets should be encouraged to report any damaged or obscured signs immediately. A formal inspection of the system should be made at least twice during daylight hours and once during darkness every year to ensure signs are visible and readable. Maintenance should include washing signs with a good soap or detergent as often as local conditions demand. Special attention should be given to check for weeds, trees, shrubbery, and construction materials which obscure sign faces. An ongoing traffic control device maintenance program is also a good way of providing a greater degree of protection from liability claims. Agencies involved with transportation, including local communities, face an ever more serious situation regarding their vulnerability to lawsuits arising from alleged dangerous conditions on streets and highways. There are several things, in addition to the traffic control device maintenance program just described, that a community can do to enhance safety and reduce losses due to tort liability. The traffic unit should have input and review opportunities and responsibilities for such functions as planning, design, construction, and maintenance. Fabrication of signs should be restricted to authorized sign shops who are fully familiar with the MUTCD. Routine fabrication of signs should be restricted to those signs that fully conform to the manual. Designate the priority with which principal signs should be replaced when damaged or missing. Seek legal counsel during review of traffic control procedures and requests for special signs. While it is desirable to develop and try out innovative approaches in the solution of traffic control problems, it is also important to retain as much as possible a strong degree of uniformity in the use and installation of traffic devices. To achieve this goal, the traffic engineer makes use of a varied body of authoritative knowledge assembled in the form of manuals of recommended practice and legal requirements. These two factors, the need for innovation and the need for uniformity, may appear to contradict one another, but in actuality they can work well together when properly applied to the specific requirement. For example, installation of traffic control devices in a specific case should be based on sound engineering principles, supplemented by factual studies of types and flow of traffic, accidents, speeds, delay, and physical conditions, which will show the exact nature of the difficulties and indicate what particular devices or methods of control are needed. After such a determination has been made, the devices or controls should conform to and be applied as prescribed by the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. We cannot overemphasize how important it is that personnel responsible for traffic control be especially qualified to understand and correctly interpret the manual. The effective traffic engineer works as part of a team with administrators, citizens, and law enforcement officials. Since traffic regulations are of no value unless they are complied with, enforcement is a vital part of all traffic engineering programs. Sound traffic control installations may reduce the need for intersection officers and make manpower available for other duty. When there are fewer citizen complaints and when there are fewer accidents, demands on police time are also reduced. On the other hand, the traffic engineer is dependent upon police work for traffic accident data upon which he or she may have to base corrective action. It is also extremely important to get the public involved in traffic matters. Citizen input can range from the informal, listening to and responding to complaints, to the structured, forming a traffic committee as an advisory body. The establishment and operation of a traffic committee can provide local officials with an opportunity to review factual situations, engineering recommendations, public safety recommendations, and citizen input before having to take a position on a particular recommendation. Many traffic recommendations are controversial, and the appeals for a particular action are often emotional. A committee operation, like that suggested here, keeps elected officials from having to make a decision based solely on emotional considerations and allows time for engineering recommendations to be considered as well. City councils in a number of communities depend on their traffic committees for an in-depth review of all factors to be considered. objective considerations as well as emotional considerations. Access to competent professional engineering and enforcement expertise is an important factor in assuring the success of such a committee, however. The intent of this presentation has been to familiarize persons responsible for traffic operations in small communities with the potential uses, concepts, and jargon associated with traffic control devices. Since traffic control devices are the primary and often the only means of communicating with the driving public, such devices must be used discriminately, uniformly, and effectively to assure correct driver interpretation and response. For consistent and safe operation, the driver must receive appropriate regulatory warning and guidance information in a uniform manner as he or she drives on the roadway system. The Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices is the official standard for use on all streets and highways open to public travel. A major case can be made for applying at least the minimum standards as specified in the manual. Litigation arising from inattention to basic guidelines for applying traffic control devices may cost local communities substantial sums of money. On the other hand, the courts tend to look with favor on agencies who can show that reasonable care has been exercised in maintaining a safe driving environment. By following the guidelines in the manual and by exercising sound judgment, the potential for adverse judgments in litigation can be minimized.